Welcome to Always Wandering Art. Today we are painting the ocean. Pictured here are our colors and brushes, and we will be using Arches rough paper. First we'll want to determine the horizon line. Since the paper is 11 by 14, I'm measuring 4.5 inches from the top or 6.5 inches from the bottom using the rule of thirds. So the sky will be 1/3 of the painting and the water will take up 2/3 of the painting. We don't want the horizon line right in the middle because then it will look like the paper is being cut in half. And now lightly sketching out roughly where the waves will be. And here I'm sketching out some rocks down at the bottom here. So I want to create the effect that the waves will be crashing down to where the rocks are. And I'm going to use masking fluid to preserve the tops of the waves, the lightest part, so we don't end up brushing over them. Well, this is a really old bottle of masking fluid. I really should get a new bottle. And now I'm just going through and just applying masking fluid wherever I think there'll be a light part of the wave or the top of the wave. I don't really know a wrong or right way to wet the paper. Sometimes I use a spray bottle, sometimes I use a brush, or a combination of both. I'm using wet and wet technique for the sky, starting off with a little raw sienna and working in some violet. I'm creating a bit of a sunset sky here, but really any type of sky will do. A plain old blue sky will work just as well here. The lightest part of the water is going to be in the back because it's further away. The only part of the water that will be even lighter than that are the tops of the waves. Initially though, I'm not really worried about making one part of the water lighter or darker. I'm just laying down a wash of ultramarine blue, and then later on I'm going to go in and define the values. The darkest part of the water is going to be right underneath the wave or underneath the crest of the wave. You might be saying to yourself, why am I using green and raw sienna in the water? Isn't water supposed to be blue? Well, if you really observe the color of the ocean in some places, you'll notice there's quite a bit of green in the water. Of course, depending on where you are in the world, that's going to be different, so I suggest tailoring this type of painting to the location of your choice. Going back in again and really trying to darken underneath the crest of the waves. To darken, I'm using a combination of Payne's Gray, Ultramarine Blue, and Hooker's Green. Any excess paint I have, I use a paper towel to blot off that excess paint. And now to diffuse some of that paint, I'm stroking in the direction of the flow of the water. So it's usually not straight down, but a little bit off to one side or the other. All right, I think it's finally starting to come together now, don't you? Time to paint the rocks down below. I didn't put any masking fluid on the rocks, although I probably should have, but I'm just going to leave white spaces where I'd like to create the impression that the water is spilling over the tops of the rocks. And to paint the rocks, I'm using browns like raw sienna, burnt umber, and burnt sienna. If you'll notice, sometimes I just use clean water to diffuse any unwanted hard edges. I think it's really important to vary the shapes and sizes of the rocks as well as the colors of the rocks. Otherwise, if everything's too similar, the painting will just not be as interesting. Always helps to have a little mountain in the back. So here I'm using the stiffest brush I could find to blot out some of that paint to create the impression that these waves are crashing in over this rock. We're at the point in the painting now where most of it has already been laid out in terms of the initial washes, so now we're bringing in some of the darker values. I like to think of this stage as highlighting or enhancing what we've already painted. Now here down below where the water's funneling in is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm using Payne's Gray an ultramarine blue to paint the shadow side of the water, because if we leave the water all white, it just won't look realistic enough. Okay, time to remove the masking fluid that we put down at the beginning of the painting. As we can see, we did a nice job preserving the tops of the waves, and now we can smooth those edges out even more. To give these waves an even more realistic look, take a stiff brush, some clean water, and blot out the hard edges. I'm not going to do this everywhere, just here and there. Now, unfortunately, we lost some of that dark color in the process of blotting out the hard edges, so I'm just going to go back in and add a little more. All the way in the back where we had the masking fluid, kind of looks like floating icebergs right now. So I'm just going back and just refining some of these things. As my mentor used to say, at this point of the painting just seems to paint itself. It's really easy to start over brushing at this point, so I think I'm just going to quit while I'm ahead. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. And for more videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching.